Hi friends, I have a question. How can you or I become a better leader? I want to grow and improve in how I lead my business, how I lead my life. And I'm really delighted today to learn from one of Ireland's top professional sports coaches, Mark Tumilty. This guy travels the globe with Ireland's men's hockey team. And how does he get the best performance? How does he lead this team forward? I'm curious to learn what leadership insights he can give you and I today. So let's jump in and meet Mark. So it's great to be joined today by Mark Tumilty, who is Ireland men's hockey head coach. And Mark has a fascinating background, not just in sport, but also in banking and finance. And today we're going to pick his brain, delve into some of those questions about how to be a better leader, and particularly around the area of performance. So we're going to jump in. Mark, welcome. Great to see you.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Mark, you work with some of Ireland's top athletes, and they've got to perform on a European, international stage. How do you get the best performance from them? And for someone running a business, how can they learn some lessons on getting the best performance?
Yeah, probably the key thing that I focus on with regards to performance of the guys is the environment we create. So one, it has to be an environment they want to be involved in. It's an environment that helps them fulfill their potential, and it's also one that has good people involved in it. So like that to me is the key bit. If they want to be there, and it's no difference in an office, and we probably, people listening to this can think of they've been in an office that they're not overly keen involved in, and the impact that has on performance, and it's no different in the environment with the senior men. So we try to create, and how do we create that environment? It's about planning, it's about having the right structures in place, it's about having the support for the players, and one key thing for me around the players and performance is always the convenience for the players. So I've been very much focused on that, and that we train at a time that is suitable for the players to still have a life outside of hockey, that they still have can develop a career elsewhere. So it's having all those things, and then within that environment, the key goal is obviously the person and those people skills. So I think they're essential to any environment. If there's good people relationships, then we got to create a good environment.
So when you took on the role of leading as head coach, did you turn up and suddenly the performance just was overnight changed, or has it taken time? You know, how can I improve in my business or another organisation?
I think like anything with regards, I don't think you can build something within 12 months. I think that's evident across business and sport. And if you look at some of the, if you look at Jurgen Klopp now, even at Liverpool, I'm not a Liverpool fan by any stretch, I'm a Man United fan. But if you look at Klopp, he probably he built something for 3 to 4 years, and then the challenge became to win. I'm probably at that stage with the Irish team where it's that building stage of, and we've made some mistakes along the way, and we're learning as we go, and the group's learning, and COVID hasn't helped in relation to trying to build the environment we want, but hopefully as we move out of COVID we can build that environment. But if I look back even to my time at coaching at Ban here, I built probably 3 teams, and it was probably my last team that was the best team, because I had spent that time to build that team and learn from what I'd done initially, phase 2, phase 3, and it was the time, and I was introducing those younger players and trusting those younger players, and probably learned that in business as well through banking, in that I needed to trust the younger people coming into the business to take on board responsibility, and then they deliver, and while you're developing that person, your business is developing.
I guess one thing that I'm curious about, so in business, people really want instant success. Management accounts need to be put through, you have a financial year to hit your targets. Is sport not the same, and you need to proven results? I mean, how do you manage and lead in that environment?
Yeah, it is, and like there's still that winning on a Saturday.
Yes.
But I think if you focus solely on that winning, is there a long-term gain in it? So while I would focus a lot on the process, and probably we get caught up. It's very easy, as I often say, and it's no different to business either. When I think of 0-0 with a minute to go and we win 1-0, oh, we were all fantastic, it was a great performance. Lose 1-0, it's an awful performance. It's the same again in business. We've had really poor week this week and from a sales environment, but we've actually maybe done some really good work in the background that we will reap the rewards in 3 to 6 months' time.
Okay.
So it is the process, and it's having an understanding of where we're looking to get to,
Yeah.
and what we need to get there, as opposed to instant success. Instant success is short term to me. You can come in, you can rant and rave, we can get somebody turned around in a week, we can get somebody, but after a period of time that stops.
Okay. Brilliant. One thing that we were chatting about earlier was about benchmarking, and like I've done this before in our business. You look at other companies in your environment and you sort of like, where are we placed ourselves there, or how do we push beyond that? Do you see that in sport, or how do you compare, or when we talk about high performance or getting more from your team, what do you do in terms of benchmarking?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because you hear lots of this player's very talented, but talented in relation to what?
Right.
So when I look at, if we look at a young player who's maybe 17, 18, is he he's very talented in a school group. Where does he sit within an All-Ireland League team? And then where does he sit in relation to international hockey?
Yeah.
That's that point of, and also then, where does he sit in relation to the best in those? So while you may have somebody who's very talented within a smaller group, and we start to expand that pool, or we grow the area we're looking at. So it's just been, it's trying to highlight that, have the conversation with the person in relation to, where do we really want to go with you? What level can we really get you? And sometimes it's a challenge to go to that world stage.
Yeah.
And I probably am honest enough to admit that I think we're reluctant to do that at times in Irish sport. I think we're very much, we look at our as the island, and I think we need to be braver at times to put our head above the parapet and say, so we've got this player, can he get to world level? But he's actually, and we've had a few, I think a prime example is David Hart, the goalkeeper in the Irish squad, but David didn't get there without putting an awful amount of hard work in on his own, and he had a mindset, and he was voted World Keeper of the Year for 2 years. But so that is somebody who, when you were benchmarking him, and when he had been asked to benchmark going through his career, he didn't want to be the best in Ireland. He didn't want to be the best in Europe. He wanted to be the best in the world. And I think that's a challenge even within any business or team, whatever. What are you benchmarking yourself against? And then how do you fulfill that potential?
Okay. Wow. So being a better leader just doesn't happen overnight. How do you continue yourself to be growing and developing in your leadership? I know you mentioned about some podcasts and other leaders that you look to. Can you give us a glimpse into some of those, and like how would that benefit people watching this today?
Yeah, probably lockdown changed for a lot of people and what to do. So high performance podcast, it's called High Performance Podcast. I definitely think it's worth listening. There's a few, I think Tito Wolff is fantastic in it, just around from a business point of view and what he expects in the business and his whole focus on people. So definitely think that's one. I think Paul McGinley's and Gareth Southgate's are fantastic to listen to. Well, I've read Owen Eastwood's book on belonging, which I think for a business or any sports teams, definitely worth looking at, because it's very easy to have this vision, to have these behaviours. Do we really live them?
Yeah.
I think that's a challenge to everybody.
Okay,
We Google something, we stick it on a wall, and we say we're living it. We're not really living it. So it's great to have a plan, but are we going back to the plan and living the plan? And that's the challenge. I'm as guilty as that as everybody else. So some of the things in those are just really enlightening in relation to how you deal with people.
Yes.
How you create an environment, and what does that environment really look like, and how does it impact people? And it's about leaving that legacy to move forward. And so there's definitely lots of good stuff out there. I read a book this week by Cody Royal, I think it is, on the tough stuff on a head coach, which was really, really interesting, and a lot of it had an impact.
Good.
So and I speak to people, and sometimes you feel you're not working. You are working. Going and having that coffee with somebody, or going and watching. I went to watch an under-14 game of football last Friday night, and that was just for my own development to see. Listen, this is one of probably the top club at this moment in time in the country, and where they push this group of kids to, and what can we learn from that? So there's lots of things out there, and
Well, I think that's hugely insightful, because sometimes I think in business or in how we lead an organisation, maybe we don't want to admit or want to be seen to be looking to other areas to learn or glean from. So it's really encouraging that you're using that model to kind of look at other sports even, or look at other leaders and go, like, what are they doing well that you can learn from?
I even spoke to a guy around business and picked up a great learning from him that he uses in, I'll share in interviews. He asked the candidate, what's an adult?
Right.
Because he has 3 kids of his own, so what's an adult? So when they tell him what the adult is in the interview, he writes it down. So when he comes back in 6 weeks' time and they're messing about not being an adult, he's able to say that this is what you said an adult was.
Brilliant.
I just thought it was a great learning. So it's no difference at times in team sport or with their own group of players.
Yeah.
It's an adult.
Good.
Hold on. Are you acting the adult or are you?
Yeah.
So there's lots learnings. There's things even I see in a pitch at schools, kids hockey. You go and watch it and you think, maybe we could do something with that, or is it something we need to revisit? Could be carrying the ball. You actually think, oh, your senior guys can do it. Maybe they can't.
Yes.
So there's always something to learn from everybody, and I think it's just about being open-minded.
Yeah.
I think if you get to the stage where you think you already know everything, you're...
Well, I think obviously just as a takeaway, you were so impressed with my skills on the pitch today. I mean, you've learned from that.
Paris is definitely an opportunity for you, Neil. I think Paris 2024, if not LA, would definitely...
I'll go for LA.
Right, okay.
So, Mark, I want to bring you back to 2012. We were chatting before. That was a time when you were in the banking and finance sector, and there was a major incident within your business unit. Can you share some of that experience of how you had to try and keep the high level performance under severe pressure, and what lessons did you learn from that?
Yeah, that was crisis management at that time in relation to what we were left with. Computer systems had totally gone down. What I learned from that, one was the work I'd done prior to that to build a team. So I had staff, and I can honestly sit here and say now at no stage that I have to ask a staff member to stay, and we started the open from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. We were doing Saturdays. So, and that just showed me the importance of having those people on side. There was other people struggled because they didn't have the people on side. And the other point that probably highlighted that stage was there was other people not directly in my unit, but part of the business teams and stuff like that we were able to call on to help because we'd worked closely with them. So while we were separate units within one company, say, we came together, and because we've been together before and we worked together, and small things, it's a small size of having lunch with them, of when you're making tea in the morning, do they get a cup of tea brought to their office the way everybody else does? So, and those are the small things that people sometimes don't see, but it meant then when I was able to ask some of them, can you jump on the cash with me? They were willing and able to do it because they knew it was one team. Did we support one another's customers? Yes, we did. Did we make decisions? Were we willing to me and some of the business managers willing to stand over some of those decisions? And so it was very much that, and you trusted your staff. And that's one thing I don't think that I can say enough about having learnt over the period of time is to trust them, develop them, and delegation. Like I've learned that you must trust the people you're with, and I've even learned that from a sporting point of view. When my first role that I took with sport, once I stopped playing, I probably head coach. I'm doing everything, and I slowly but surely learned, no, you just can't do that. One's burnout for yourself, but also the group get bored listening to the one person. So I then started to surround myself with a good assistant, with the right people, with the right manager who looked after the admin, and then over the years it just developed. And thankfully, the one thing I can probably say, there's lots of people probably developed under me and have gone on to have good roles or leadership roles or promotion and things out of those things. So it's just that point of don't panic is one thing. I wouldn't be a crisis. 60 minutes every international game can be a crisis, but it's just that don't panic. It's never as bad as you think it's going to be, and just manage your way through it and plan your way through it. And it's always, I think, an important thing to say thanks to staff at the end of it.
Okay, that's fantastic, Mark. Taking a step away from banking, finance, and high performance international sport for a second, what do you do to keep yourself refreshed? Your family life, or are you just go, winning the next game? Like, how do you keep things in balance at the level of performance you're working at? Yeah,
I really struggled with that. Okay, be honest about that. I did, probably not as much now, but when I was club coaching and working and had 2 young kids, I probably struggled with it all because I became obsessed. And I was probably more obsessed with winning on a Saturday and getting trophies than it was around work and stuff. But I became obsessed with it. Now, having had some interaction with people who've been through the same process, when you're a full-time sports coach, book a time out of your diary. I know I spoke to you and you sort of feel, I'm watching a hockey game, or I speak to some other parents, or I need to get back to work. There's that guilt that I should always be in work. I think we need to protect ourselves. I worked with a lady who'd been to 6 Olympics recently, and she actually said to me, Mark, if you don't manage yourself and look after yourself, when you actually turn up, you can't give the best of yourself. And I think that's a key bit. How if we're constantly tired, fatigued, frustrated when we turn up to work or we turn up to coach, are we able to give the best of ourselves? So I've done some silly things, like before I went on the pitch, I ruled 2 hours out of my diary where I won't answer an email. I won't look at my email. So just my head's clear. When I go to the pitch, this is what I'm looking to deliver. I do use the gym. I can't at the minute because I've got a sore hip, but I walk my dog. I've got the kids are involved in sports, so that's a break. But sometimes while it is a break, I'm still not watching the game the way other people are watching the game. I'm watching the game so you kind of pick something up around. So it's not feeling guilty around that you're switched off, and you definitely, I think, need some time where I'm not contactable. And I think that's a key bit to it. Too often, we've switched off, but give me a call. Like, it's something I've been very strict on in work in the bank. If somebody was out of the office on annual leave, they could not be contacted unless it was an emergency. That person's on annual leave, that person decides their break, and I think sometimes people don't give people enough of that, because you'll get it back from them when they get back into work. So it's definitely plan your week, plan your month, identify the times that you are going to be busy, identify the times that you can have downtime, and don't feel guilty about it. And I think even from a social point of view, it's good to not spend all your time with, if it's work colleagues or hockey colleagues. So I do try to socialise with people that are non-hockey. So it's forgotten about it. They don't want to talk about it, I don't want to talk about it. And I think that's important, because you've got to keep yourself refreshed and look after yourself. So you perform. Sometimes we forget about that as leaders, coaches. We need to perform, and we are performing on a daily basis.
I think that's really healthy insight, Mark, because even being honest, like before I left the office to come here today, I said to my colleagues, listen, I'm out, but you can get me on the mobile. And the reality is, sometimes you just feel like you've always got to be available, or your posture is you want to help, and even just with your phone, I mean, there's really the start and the end of a day with work can just come at you constantly. So I guess that's something I'm trying to learn as well, and it's great to have your insight. Is there any other sort of tips
Technology's an interesting one, because I would have had my work email on my phone in the past, so I just removed it. Because at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, if I'm doing something and I have my work email and something comes through that can be dealt with the next morning, but I'll do it now. Well, you're working again, so you're not having that downtime. I would have sometimes, a couple of mornings a week, decided I'm going to go somewhere at 8 o'clock for a coffee, and I'm going to get an hour's really good work done before anybody comes near me. Well, that set me up to do the other things that I wanted to do during the day, so it wasn't in an office, that I was out doing that leadership role, management role. So there's things like that. Just plan. Have a plan for the week. What does the week look like? When can you do it? And have that spare time, that downtime, and don't feel guilty about having it. And so technology, it's difficult now. I think a lot of people feel, I'm working from home. You can end up working 7 to 9, 7 to 10. Like, there's times you do need to. We all understand that as leaders, or in certain roles you have to. But I think it's not. Don't get into that habit. Less is more sometimes.
That's actually quite radical from my thinking, to almost not engage in, say, a work email after 6 in the evening, because I think a lot of people find an hour in the evening and they flick through their business or social channels, filter through emails to get ahead for tomorrow, but in a way it's maybe robbing you of that time. And
the other point as well, I think, from it is you need to be careful what email you're sending at that time, because somebody else maybe feels that pressure. They need to be working at that time, and if that piece, that could be that's when they're turned off. Their break time, but this hits their inbox and they're going, I'm supposed to have a break, or I'm supposed to be doing something. You have no idea what they're doing. So sometimes I think it's putting some guidelines around, we don't send emails after this time unless it's a crisis, and then that's different. You manage that. But I think there's a lot around that.
It's been brilliant learning some of the nuggets and insights from Mark today. And to finish up this session today, I'm going to give Mark 90 seconds. So this guy works under pressure, so we're going to test him out on it. So we're going to put 90 seconds on the clock and some quick fire leadership insight questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Do you need a bottle of water?
No, I'm grand. Let's go.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, who would you say has been an inspirational leader in your life?
I had probably one of my first managers, who taught me. She was very protective of the staff. No matter what happened in the building, she protected the staff, and it's something that stood by me, and something I always relate to ever since. Yeah.
Okay. In your experience, what makes for a great leader?
Somebody that you're willing to follow and brings you with them.
Okay.
So, and that you're bought into the environment they create.
Okay. What is the one key leadership lesson that you're learning right now?
You've got to be willing to change. Players are changing, times are changing, how we interact's changing, so it's being willing to change. You can't be the person you were 10 weeks ago sometimes with some of the people you're dealing with now.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything in technology or any innovations that you think can help you become a better leader?
Probably using less of it sometimes. Right. I think we hide behind email, we hide behind WhatsApp, sometimes less of it, that we have those conversations still. I still think conversations, we learn more, we interact more, so that would be one. Less technology at times.
Brilliant. Okay, just checking my non-technological watch here, so last question. Yeah. Look, am I going to make a place in the team here? I mean, the skills today have been unbelievable.
Huge improvements over the last few weeks, Neil. Paris might be tight, but I definitely think LA is realistic now.
Well, listen, I want to say a massive thank you, Mark, for giving us your time today. You're a hugely successful leader. I'm hugely respectful of you. I admire how you have led, even in your family, in your banking career, and now today in the top level of elite sport. So it's been a privilege to chat with you. It's great to not have to read a book, listen to a podcast, but actually have a conversation with a leader of your caliber. So just want to say thank you, and just want to wish you well and the team well, and all of the hard work that you guys put in representing our nation in hockey. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nate. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Great.